don't know about y'all, but I love video games. And I remember the Atari. I'm going to age myself. I remember getting the Atari when I was a kid, and we played that little game, the little bouncy ball game where you moved your Atari up and down and the ball bounced between them. And then I remember getting the Nintendo and getting to play Mario for the first time. What always struck me about video games was it was always these levels, and you started out at a level and then you just kept moving up, and then as you moved up it got harder and harder. And that's really how we are in life. We start out at a level and then we just have to keep moving forward. And I think about that when I think about my Toastmasters journey. When I was very small, I remember my kindergarten progress reports. The first progress report came out and it wrote to my parents, Rebecca is very smart. She already knows all of her ABCs. She already knows her numbers. She's starting to sight read. But Rebecca doesn't talk. And then the next progress report came out and it said, Rebecca is excellent. She's already starting to read. She's starting to read at the kindergarten, already turning into the first grade level. She hasn't made a single friend. The next progress report. She's doing math. We're recommending that she maybe moves forward into the next grade. But she stands by herself. I had social anxiety. I have social anxiety. I'm an introvert. So as a kid, I was at the very lowest level of being able to communicate with others. And that continued on. When I hit the third grade, it was recommended that I be moved to the fifth grade because I was already reading at a junior high level. I was already doing math at junior high level. But my parents were so afraid of moving me that far up because socially, I was probably still a kindergartner. And that has been the case all throughout my high school career. And I got into college. You know, you have to choose these different things. What are you going to do? What are you going to be? I chose to go into computers, computer science, because you didn't have to talk to anybody. You just worked on that little box. They don't tell you when you are in college that you're going to have to talk to people and you're going to have to interact with them. But I had to hit another level. And I slowly learned to work with others on projects, on how to do these small things. And then I got into the real world. And now we're talking super hard level. I'm not on the easy mode anymore. Now I'm on the hard mode in my video game of life. And I'm having to interact and do things. I walked in an intern at Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana. And my boss looks at me. He goes, look, normally as an intern, we would just have you make copies, maybe run a few little things, do reporting, small things like that. But unfortunately, 2 days ago, we had a 100% turnaround and we have no employees in this department anymore. The last employee is moving into another department. They're willing to train you for the next 2 to 3 days on how to do their job, but then they've got to go. And we're hiring people, but instead of being an intern, you're now just a full-time, part-time employee. Oh, and by the way, your first meeting for today, you're going to meet with the Vice President of Infrastructure and Operations. You're going to be sitting in his meetings because you're now going to be running his project portfolio. Excuse me? I don't talk to people. This is why I got into computers, so that I didn't have to talk to people. What do you mean I got to go talk to a vice president of the company and talk to him about his projects? And oh, I sat in that meeting, and it is the vice president and all of his directors and managers sitting in a room. And they plopped me down beside the vice president and they said, Charles, this is Rebecca. She's our new intern. She's going to be the one who runs all your projects. Congratulations. Peace out, and walks out the room. And that was the day I discovered I better level up fast. This is where Toastmaster starts to come in. See him bebopping down the hall, like you normally do. I see this sign on the water cooler that says, want to be a better communicator? Want to be a better leader? Toastmasters. And me going, I have no communication skills. And yeah, eventually would maybe want to be a leader. You got to move up somehow. I decided to go ahead and join this little Toastmasters club. And it says, meeting in Audubon 1 room, 7 o'clock tonight. All right. So I go into this big meeting room. It's one of our training rooms. And I'm looking around, and there are about 10 people sitting in pods. These are people I work with on a daily basis. But I don't know about all of this. So I'm going to sit in the very, very, very back of the room by the windows. And I just sit in my own little pod by myself quietly. This group is super nice. They're talking, they're getting up and they're doing all of these things. Rebecca, do you want to take on a role? No. Rebecca, do you want to do table topics? No, I just sit here and watch. I don't know. No. Because there's this thing in me that says, okay, I'm not ready for this hard mode yet. I'm not ready for leveling up. But they invited me back. Come back, Rebecca. Come see us again. Despite some misgivings, I did wander back into the next meeting. And it still sat in the very back of the room. And they convinced me to get up and do a table topics. And I spoke for 20 seconds and was in double digits of ums and ahs, but I accomplished it. I leveled myself up to be able to do that and sat back down and went, I'm done, never doing that again. I could come back, do it again, do it again. Your first speech. I said, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm not sure I want to do this, but this is the only way for me to level up in my game. So I wrote a speech. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I didn't write a speech. I wrote a manifesto. I wrote a 5-page document using all of the skills I had gathered in high school and college to write this beautiful introduction, this body, this conclusion. It was A+ grade worthy. I went through my life's history. I started talking about my Myers-Briggs score. I started talking about my family's crest, our code of honor. I brought in everything. And I memorized it front to back. And I stood up there for 4 to 6 minutes and read out 5 pages worth of information in 6 minutes. Can you imagine how fast I talked? And with this Southern accent? And I sat down and I was dejected because I just knew that that was the most horrible thing I had ever done. And they were going to tell me that I should just quit now because I was not going to get any better. And that didn't happen. Instead, last year's Regent Advisor, Phil Verona, He was there at that meeting and he stood up. He said, "I'm your evaluator, Rebecca. First thing I want to tell you, you did an icebreaker for 6 minutes and you did not use a single note. You had it all memorized." I was like, "Well, yeah, you got to memorize your speech. People use notes when they first start out. You didn't." He's like, "I can see where you put a lot of time and effort into this." I was like, "Well, yeah, I did. I mean, I did that." And he goes, "One of the things that you could do next time to make it even better, slow down. You don't have to tell us everything. Just give us a small portion of it. And you can slow down. Pause. When you think you've paused long enough, pause a little more." I said, "That is actually advice I could use because I do talk very fast." And that motivated me to begin that journey of being a Toastmaster and getting more better. And I say more better because I'm Southern and we do that. We get better and better, moving the stick forward. I joined Toastmasters in October. This was a new club that had not quite chartered yet. As a matter of fact, this club had been trying to charter for 3 years and had not been successful at it. It was a corporate club. And of course, as a lot of corporate clubs do, they were like, "Oh, well, we're just going to offer it to certain people." And of course, that failed. And then we're going to do it this way, and that failed. And finally, when I had gotten there, they had put up those signs. It was because they had finally just opened it up to the whole company. Our district leadership team came to me in December and said, "We have to charter y'all. It's been 3 years. If we don't charter y'all, we're going to have to let it go. We're going to have to figure out something. Y'all just have not been able to get to 20 members. What can y'all do?" And that was the day that I leveled up in my leadership skills because I said, "We've got to charter. What do we have to do to charter?" I said, "You need 20 members. Your dues are already paid. Blue Cross has paid it. You just got to get 20 members on the books." I said, "Okay, April. We will be chartered by April." That gives me 4 months. So I was a Toastmaster for 2 months. I had promised them I'd give me 4 months. And as a 6-month-old Toastmaster, I would have you chartered. And we did it. It took a lot. It was not an easy undertaking, but I started just campaigning around the company. "Hey, this is what's happening. This is Toastmasters. You should come join." I started leaning on the IT people that I met through working on my projects with my vice president. I started working with all these other people and I started teaching these leadership skills. And I got my 20 members by April, and we chartered officially April of 2012. And I thought, I'm good. I'm leveled. I'm good. I'm a Toastmaster. I've done my speeches. I'm working on that CC. I'm good, right? But here's the thing with video games. You're never at the end. Mario does that little flag at the castle, and that's not the end of the game. It just means you got to start at the new level. And for me, that happened 2 months later in July when I got a phone call from Dave Reed, the district director of District 68. "Hi, Rebecca. You kind of got recommended as an area governor. Are you interested in doing that?" I was like, "I don't know what an area governor is." Dave, I've been with Toastmasters for 6 months and I've only been officially chartered since April, right? And he's like, I think you'll do a good job, Rebecca. I think you'll do a good job." And for me, that's socially anxious, awkward introvert. That was another decision point in my video game of life of I could stay at my current level and continue to do as I've done, or I can level up. And it's not going to be easy, but hey, it's one step closer to being better at communication and leadership. So I agreed to do it. You're going to have to work with 4 different clubs in the greater Baton Rouge area. Our areas are very small in my district. And you're going to have to meet these people. You're going to have to start communicating with them. You're going to have to gain their trust, relationship building, all these things that I just was not good at. But I started going to these clubs and visiting them. And I started to make friends. And I started to realize the Toastmasters way of life and kind of got out of my IT shell. It wasn't about the computers. It was now about the relationships and building out. But I was able to do things that I was really good at, working with them on their strategies and their goals, how to get there, and making these connections with people. Because then it was, hey, come to the next district conference. And at the end of the year, my district was distinguished. And I don't know how that happened, but it was not me, but it was every one of those clubs. I was just a small part of that said, let's do it. We could do this. But I learned so much from them that I'm working with another area director. And I said, hey, division director's coming up. And we're talking about who wants to be division director. Are you going to go forward? Am I going to go forward? How are we going to do this? And somebody comes to me and they go, hey, we had some problems in our district earlier this year. And the person who was fulfilling the role of LGM has had to drop out because work has carried them into Florida now. And they can't be a part of the district. They've got a whole new job. So we don't have a candidate that's going to be coming in as LJET. So the person that, kind of be LGM, they're thinking about running for LJET. So Rebecca, you want to run for LGM? You want to be the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing? And I had that other Mario moment, and I went, I thought I was just moving to level 3. I don't know if I'm ready to move to, level 7. I'm just at level 3. And they said, I think you could do it, Rebecca. I think you could do it. I think you can do this. You've got the person who is running for district governor. They are really fantastic. Matter of fact, Phil is the one who's running for LJET. Rebecca, we think you could be the LGM. If you haven't realized now, I follow Phil around. I said, all right, so let's try this. So I ran for LGM and I received it. And I did, was like, I don't, oh gosh, what do I do? And I started working with my district governor. I started working with, the LJET, is working with the new area governors, division governors. I'm starting to work with all these people, and I'm having to do this brand new skill. I had a club, so I wasn't really out there going and getting new clubs. And when as an area governor, I was working with them on getting new clubs, but my area was pretty hopping as it was, and so I walked in with leads that I was able to fulfill that got us to distinguished. But I hadn't really had that whole cold called experience or that looking for leads experience and things like that. And so that became a brand new skill I had to have. So I started to think about strategies and things like that. And how do you do this? And I came up with this strategy called Where You At. And I realized that for my district, we were city based. And if you don't know anything about Louisiana, know that you've heard of New Orleans, pretty big. You may have heard of Baton Rouge, the capital. We got like 3 or 4 more other cities, and that's about it. I live 20 miles outside of Baton Rouge, and you would not know that I live 20 miles outside of a city. I live in the country. I live next to a hay field. There are 7 people that live down my road, and we're all kind of kin to each other. So that's the area I grew up. So I looked at it and said, you know what? We all these people have zip codes that are outside of where they go to their Toastmasters meetings. How do we build clubs outside of that? And so that became my theme for that year. Where you at? What kind of club could you have at your zip code, at your city, your town? We became distinguished that year, and I give all that credit to the crew. I had area governors, I had division governors who were out there building clubs. They were out there working those programs. And the next year they moved me and they said, "Hey, are you applying for LJET?" And I said, "You know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm ready to move forward now. I've got the taste of leveling up. Let's level up some more." And I moved into the LJET position. I applied and won that position. And that year, Phil was our district governor. I was our LJET, and then our LGM happened to be my former area governor mate that had taken on the division governor role when I stepped into LGM role. And so the 3 of us, all being from Baton Rouge, all working together. And it just so happened that both Stacy and I come from technology backgrounds. So we worked really well together. We had a fantastic time just building out and strengthening our district even more. And we're able to get our clubs very strong and safe and moving forward to how we wanted to continue to grow. And then it became, time for being a district director, and did the whole applying thing, won it, just as David has done. And so I've been where David is now, where it's a brand new year, and now you're at that highest level that goes, how do I do this? How do I run all of these things? And I leveled up in my leadership, and I'm going to tell you, it was not an easy thing. As a matter of fact, we had probably some of the worst things that happened my year for my district, to the point where some of our district members actually tried to have secret meetings and dissolve our district. I'm not kidding. It actually happened. I found out about it and actually had to put a stop to this. It was a hot mess, because sometimes when you level up, you run into those obstacles. You run into that enemy that just, you try and you fail, and you try and you fail, and you try and you fail. But eventually, you finger mash enough, you get past it. And we did. I'm working with my district, working with our past division governors, working with our deck, working with all of those. We actually became distinguished that year. And I was so proud, not because it was my moment, because it was not, it was everybody else's moment. During that leveling up, it wasn't just Toastmasters. Because see, we don't come to Toastmasters just to be a Toastmaster, right? We have our own internal reasons and goals. During this whole entire time, I had been working on my communication skills, working on my skills, and it was showing at work. Back at Blue Cross, my manager is noticing things. And within my first year of being within Toastmaster, he said, "Rebecca, I'm noticing you never talked in meetings, but now you're giving us ideas. You never used to do this. Now you're doing it. Rebecca, I'm watching you. You're confident. You're speaking out more. You're giving us things that we've never gotten from you before. I want to move you to a new position." And I moved to being a technology business analyst for his group. And he said, hey, I'm actually going to put you on a program, and I'm bringing in a program manager, and I want you two to work together, and you're going to build out our project management program. I got a $20,000 bonus that year for being with Toastmasters. That was a level up. And then it continued because I'm giving out my ideas. I'm getting more confident, and I'm doing things that I had never done before. I'm speaking to people that I had never spoke to before. I'm working with people I'd never worked with before. My name started to get out there. People started to know who I was. I wasn't this little computer person anymore. Now I'm Rebecca, that technology business analyst. Oh yeah, she knows all these things. I learned all these different areas of the vision of the department and of my division and then into the company. I also started to find out things about myself as a person that never talked to anybody in school, that's now talking to a lot of people and having relationships with all these different folks. I'm having to train with Toastmasters. I'm having to speak with people, and I'm good at it. I'm good at training. I'm good at talking to people. And next thing I know, I'm starting to build out training materials. I'm starting to train people on technology. I'm starting to coach people on how to do things. I'm sitting in the CIO's office talking to him about how he needs to speak to people at the next event he's going to. And he goes, Rebecca, you're really good at this. And next thing I know, I'm still a technology business analyst, but my job, instead of focusing on projects, I'm now focusing on how to help people learn about the technology that they're doing. And in 2018, Human Resources came to me and said, Rebecca, you're really good at what you do. And I was like, well, thank you. Toastmasters helped me. And they said, we would like you to come and join us. We want you to continue to teach tech skills, but now we're also wanting you to teach soft skills too. And we want to combine those two things. And we want to be able to move forward. And we know you've got a background in doing those things. And I leveled up. I could have stayed where I was, but instead I leveled up. And I said, you know what? Let me do this. And I've been with that team since then. They call me a specialist, but they told me it's because they don't know that there's no role for chief problem solver of a department. But I continue to level up, and I continue to use my Toastmasters to level up. I moved from the original program and our legacy program into Pathways. I got my DTM in Pathways within a year. I'm working on my second DTM now with Pathways. Oh my God. You can continue to level up and continue to move forward. So I encourage you as Toastmasters, as club officers, where you are today, that's just the level you are. Continue to move forward, level up, be that video game of life, and get that nice at the end. Mr. Kincaid.
Thank